The dust of Alexandria swirled in the oppressive heat, a constant, gritty reminder of the city's turmoil. Within the royal palace, a young woman named Arsinoe felt the walls closing in, each gilded cage a testament to her shrinking world. Her older sister, Cleopatra, had aligned herself with the formidable Roman general, Julius Caesar, a move that reeked of betrayal. Arsinoe, fueled by a potent mix of ambition and indignation, saw this as a grave insult to Egyptian sovereignty. She believed the throne, and the very soul of Egypt, was hers to claim and protect. Her brother, the young king, Ptolemy XIII, was a pawn in a game far too complex for his years. Arsinoe, however, was no one's pawn. With the help of her loyal tutor, the eunuch Ganymedes, she plotted her escape from the palace's suffocating embrace. Under the cloak of a moonless night, they slipped past the Roman guards, their hearts pounding a frantic rhythm. The city outside the palace walls was a powder keg, ready to explode. Arsinoe and Ganymedes made their way to the camp of the Egyptian army, which was arrayed against Caesar. Soldiers, loyal to the Ptolemaic dynasty but wary of Cleopatra's Roman alliance, were a sea of uncertain faces. When Arsinoe, a true daughter of the Nile, appeared before them, a roar of approval erupted through the ranks. They proclaimed her Queen of Egypt, their rightful leader in the fight against the foreign invaders. For a fleeting moment, Arsinoe tasted true power, the adoration of her people, a heady wine. She took command, her voice, though young, ringing with an authority that surprised even her own generals. The initial skirmishes against Caesar's legions were surprisingly successful, fueling the flames of rebellion. But Caesar was a master of war, his strategies as relentless as the tides of the Mediterranean. Slowly, inexorably, the Roman war machine ground down the Egyptian resistance. The Battle of the Nile was a disaster, a crushing defeat that sealed the fate of Arsinoe's cause. Her brother Ptolemy XIII drowned in the river, his heavy golden armor dragging him to a watery grave. Arsinoe was captured, her brief reign ending not with a bang, but with the clink of Rome's shackles. She was taken before Caesar, her sister Cleopatra standing smugly by his side. The look of triumph in Cleopatra's eyes was a dagger in Arsinoe's heart, sharper than any blade. Arsinoe refused to bow, her pride a final, defiant shield against her utter humiliation. Caesar, ever the pragmatist, decided to spare her life, saying more value in a living trophy than a dead martyr. She was to be taken to Rome, a living symbol of his conquest of Egypt. The sea voyage was long and arduous, each wave a reminder of the vast distance growing between her and her homeland. She arrived in Rome a prisoner, the once mighty city a cold and imposing spectacle of foreign power. The day of Caesar's triumph was a carefully orchestrated piece of political theater, and she was its unwilling star. Arsinoe was paraded through the streets, not in the manner of a respected captive queen, but as a common spectacle. She was forced to walk in heavy golden chains, a lighthouse representing the pharaohs of Alexandria dragged behind her. The chains were a deliberate cruelty, a physical manifestation of her sister's victory and her own defeat. The Roman crowds, usually boisterous and cruel, fell into a stunned silence at the sight of the young, defiant princess. Her youth, her beauty, and her unbroken spirit resonated with the populace in a way Caesar had not anticipated. A murmur of sympathy rippled through the onlookers, a quiet rebellion against Caesar's display of dominance. Caesar, ever sensitive to the mood of the public, realized that executing her would be a political mistake. Instead of the traditional execution at the end of the triumph, Arsinoe was granted a different fate, She was to be exiled, sent far from Rome and, more importantly, far from Egypt. Her destination was the great city of Ephesus, in Asia Minor, a place renowned for its magnificent temple of Artemis. The journey to Ephesus was another long voyage, but this time, it was a journey towards a strange kind of freedom. She arrived not as a queen, nor as a prisoner, but as a supplicant seeking sanctuary. The Temple of Artemis was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, a sprawling complex of marble and gold. Its sheer scale was breathtaking, a testament to centuries of devotion and wealth. Arsinoe was accepted into the temple's community, granted asylum within its sacred precincts. She traded her royal silks for the simple robes of a priestess, her life stripped down to its bare essentials. Her days fell into a new rhythm, dictated by ancient rituals and the quiet hum of temple life. She learned the sacred rites, her voice joining the chorus of hymns to the great goddess Artemis. The temple was a sanctuary, not just from her political enemies, but from her own past. Here, she was not Queen Arsinoe, the failed rebel, but simply Arsinoe, a servant of the goddess. She found a strange solace in the anonymity, a respite from the constant weight of her royal blood. She would often climb the temple steps to watch the sunset over the bustling city of Ephesus. The world outside the temple walls continued to turn, oblivious to the exiled queen in its midst. News from Rome and Alexandria arrived sporadically, carried by merchants and pilgrims. She learned of Caesar's assassination on the Ides of March, a piece of news that sent shockwaves through the world. For a moment, a flicker of hope ignited within her. Perhaps now, her fortunes might change. But the power vacuum in Rome only created more chaos, more danger. Her sister, Cleopatra, ever the survivor, navigated these treacherous waters with cunning skill. She had allied herself with a new Roman, the powerful and ambitious Mark Antony. Arsinoe knew that as long as she lived, Cleopatra would never feel truly secure on her throne. She was a loose thread in Cleopatra's carefully woven tapestry of power, a rival claimant with a legitimate bloodline. The sanctuary of the temple, once a source of comfort, now felt like a gilded cage of a different sort. Fear, a long-dormant poison, began to seep back into her heart. She saw shadows in every corner, heard whispers in the wind that chilled her to the bone. Her fears were not unfounded. In Alexandria, Cleopatra had made her request to Mark Antony, her words as sweet as honey, her intent as sharp as steel. She wanted her sister, the last remaining threat to her reign, eliminated permanently. Antony, besotted and politically indebted to the Egyptian queen, readily agreed. He dispatched his soldiers, their orders a sacrilegious violation of the temple's ancient sanctity. One evening, as Arsinoe was leaving the inner sanctum, she was confronted by the Roman centurions. The high priest protested, invoking the name of the goddess and the inviolable right of sanctuary. But the soldiers, acting on Antony's authority, shoved him aside without a second thought. Arsinoe did not beg or plead. Her royal pride remained intact even in the face of certain death. She was dragged from the temple, her bare feet scraping against the cold marble steps. The act was a profound sacrilege, a shock to the entire Roman and Greek world. On the very steps of the holy sanctuary, her life was extinguished by a Roman sword. Her exile had ended, not in a return to power, but in a bloody assassination ordered by her own sister. Cleopatra had finally silenced the last dissenting voice of her family. But the murder of a sister, a priestess in a holy sanctuary, would forever be a stain on her legacy. Arsinoe, the girl who would be queen, was now just a ghost, a tragic footnote in the grand, bloody history of Rome and Egypt. The sun set over Ephesus, casting long shadows that seemed to mourn the fallen princess. Her story became a cautionary tale, whispered in the corridors of power for generations to come. She had dared to challenge the might of Rome and the ambition of Cleopatra. In the end, the world she knew had no place for two queens of the Nile. Great temple of Artemis would one day fall to ruin, its stones scattered by time and man. But the memory of the exiled queen who sought refuge there would linger in the dust. Her name, Arsinoe, would be etched not in the grand monuments of kings, but in the quiet annals of tragedy. The winds blowing through the ruins of Ephesus still seemed to whisper her name. A princess who fought for a kingdom she believed was hers. A sister betrayed by a sister in the ultimate quest for absolute power. A queen for a fleeting moment, celebrated by an army that saw her as their true hope. A prisoner in golden chains, a spectacle of another's triumph. An exile who found a fragile peace in the service of a goddess. A victim of a political assassination that shocked the conscience of an empire. Arsinoe's life was a testament to the brutal realities of dynastic power. She was a casualty of a clash of civilizations, Egypt and Rome locked in a fatal embrace. Her ambition was no less than her sister's, only her fortune. The sanctuary she trusted became her final prison. The goddess she served could not protect her from the mortal ambitions of men and women. Her death was a political necessity for Cleopatra, a cold and calculated move on the great chessboard of power. Mark Antony, the instrument of her death, would one day meet his own tragic end, a victim of the same game. But for now, in the year 41 BCE, Cleopatra's power was absolute, her throne secured with her own sister's blood. The story of Arsinoe serves as a reminder that history is written by the victors. Her voice was silenced, her perspective almost lost to the ages. Yet, the injustice of her death resonated, a discordant note in the symphony of Cleopatra's reign. The Roman historian Appian would later condemn the act as a grievous crime. The violation of a sacred sanctuary was a line that even the ruthless politics of the era rarely crossed. Arsinoe's ghost, a symbol of betrayed kinship, would haunt Cleopatra's legacy. In the quiet ruins of Ephesus, one can almost feel the presence of the exiled princess. A young woman who dared to dream of a crown, only to find a sword. Her struggle for power was a desperate gamble against impossible odds. The loyalty of her army was real, but it was not enough. The political currents of the time were too strong. The Roman tide too powerful to resist. Her exile in Ephesus was a period of quiet reflection, a pause in a life of turmoil. She may have found a measure of peace, a temporary harbor from the storm. But the storm was always gathering on the horizon, waiting to reclaim her. Cleopatra's fear was a more potent force than any temple's sanctity. The final act of her life was not one she chose, but one that was chosen for her. Her story is a thread of tragedy woven into the larger fabric of history. A reminder of the human cost of ambition and the fragility of life in a world of giants. The dust of Alexandria has long since settled. The stones of the temple are scattered. But the echo of a young queen's defiance and a sister's betrayal remains. Arsinoe was a Ptolemaic, a descendant of Alexander's great general, with fire in her blood. She saw her sister not just as family, but as a rival who had sold out to a foreign power. The escape from the palace was her first true act of rebellion, a step into the unknown. Being hailed as queen by the army must have felt like destiny finally arriving. She likely believed the gods of Egypt were on her side in this righteous struggle. The initial victories were intoxicating, a validation of her bold gamble. But the reality of Roman discipline and engineering soon became terrifyingly clear. News of her brother's death must have been a devastating blow, leaving her truly alone. Being paraded in Rome was the ultimate degradation, a public stripping of her royalty. Yet, the crowd's sympathy was an unexpected, small victory in the midst of defeat. Exile to Ephesus was a reprieve, a chance to breathe after years of conflict. Life, as a priestess, offered a structure and purpose that was devoid of political scheming. She might have even made friends among the other women who served the goddess. Hearing of Caesar's death would have been a complex moment, mixing hope with uncertainty. The rise of Antony and Cleopatra's alliance was the death knell for that hope. The final confrontation with Antony's men was the tragic, inevitable conclusion. Her defiance in that final moment cemented her legacy as more than just a victim. Sacrilege of her murder was a scandal that Antony could not easily escape. Cleopatra, in her palace, may have felt a moment of triumph, but perhaps also a pang of guilt. Arsinoe's story is a powerful reminder of the forgotten women of history, whose stories are often overshadowed. She was a player in the great game, and she played her hand with courage, even if she lost. Her exile was a period of forced peace before the final, violent end. Her memory serves as a counter-narrative to the polished legend of her sister. Ultimately, Arsinoe of Egypt was a queen without a kingdom, a priestess without salvation, and a sister without a sister.